Hi, so today we're going to be doing a sky tutorial. If you want to find your horizon line first, make sure your paper is at an angle so that the watercolors can move freely. I'm just going to wet my brush. This is just water, there's no paint at this point. Now I'm adding some pigment. And remember, you want to be really loose with this. You don't want to be too concerned with where the pigment goes or how it's mixing. I like to use different colors. Soon I'll be using a purple and a red. For a more detailed instructions, you can go to my blog, which is www.paintingandtrees.blogspot.com. More information will be in the description below. And you see it's all going down because it's at an angle. The paper is angled at about 45 degrees. And there's the red. It's purple. Keep in mind that the closer to the horizon you get, you want it to be darker. This creates a sense of depth in your painting. And really be loose with it. This is really an exercise to get you loosened up. So all the colors are sort of blending together. I'm not worried about any of this right now. I'm going to start putting in little bits of sunlight. I'm constantly wetting my brush so I get that movement. I want to soften up any hard edges. And now I'm taking a smaller brush, a smaller round brush. I was using a flat brush before. I'm going to darken around the horizon. Now I wet my brush and I'm moving the wet paint. You see it's coming right off and we can see the white of the paper again. These are going to be my clouds. This takes a little bit of practice, but you should be able to get it. It's all about waiting for the paint to almost dry, not letting it get too dry. I'm just doing little circular motions. There we go. And again in the middle. You see it's really coming out. Pigment's really moving. Don't be scared to put the clouds wherever you like. Just softening those edges. Any hard edges tend to really distract the eye and make your painting look a little haphazard, I think. Especially when you're dealing with clouds and skies. Here I'm going to define that cloud a little bit. It gets a little light up there for the top of the paper, so I'm adding some dark blue just along the edges. I'm going to soften it up. Again, I'm softening those edges. We have some clouds. It's good to look, to take a step back, even propping your painting up against the other side of the room and going and looking at it from far away. You really get a better perspective on what needs to be done. I'm still darkening that horizon. Just makes it much more pleasing to the eye. It doesn't look as flat then. I'm backing away again. The colors are just nicely blending into each other. And I'm propping it up. Get some of the water to drain down and also to look at it. And I'm just adding some more color to my sky, make it more interesting. Sorry about the blurriness. The camera seemed to not want it to focus. There we go. See, everything's very loose, and I'm adding more color because my paper's slowly drying. I'm just going to soften all those edges. I don't want any really hard edges. I really like to see what sort of colors I can get away with in the sky. I mean, I've added all sorts of things from greens, purples like you can see, reds, blues, which is very usual. So don't be scared to play. Even browns can really make a strange stormy sky. Adding some darker pigment to the top. For now, we're just focusing on the sky. We're not worrying about the land. I haven't even wet the lower portion of my paper yet. are at a different angle. I'm just darkening up the horizon. So there's layers and layers of colors in the sky. Now we're going to start working on the land. I'm going to add some woods right at that horizon line and going into our sky even. Don't be scared to go back and forth with your brush, making little trees. I'm using a nice brown. I'm going to mix in some green in there. And I want it to look like fall, so I'm going to be putting some oranges and reds and yellows in there. Again, just like your sky, don't be scared to mix the colors, letting them blend together. This is a really good way to get loosened up. We're not worrying about reference photos. We're just sort of making it up as we go along. I like to call these memory landscapes because I use different places that I remember or that I enjoy going, and I sort of recall them in my painting. But nothing's very, highly realistic. It's all just very, very loose and full of washes. I'm adding the very tips of the trees, sort of speckling. I'm using a flat brush for this. It's a little easier to make it look like actual trees with a flat brush. With a round brush, you start getting these little sort of too thick lines. Fan that out. You see how it's full of different colors. There's even some blue in there. What you want to think about is you want the tops of the trees to be a little lighter and the bottom to be darker. Again, creating that perspective, getting that depth. Working on some trunks there. And those will all fade in because it's so wet right now. It'll all sort of fade and blur, and we really want that. We don't want hard lines. And some ochre in there. I love ochre. It's such a pretty deep yellow. Some red. You're starting to get the sense of fall now. And of course, if you want a more summery scene, do more greens. Winter, I like to mix more blues and browns together. I'm wetting my brush and loading it up with color, and I'm going to do the grass. Very fall, yellowed grass. I'm going just a bit over the line. I don't want to get into the woods though, because all that color is just going to drain down. I'm going to let it dry first. Some red, and I'm not wetting the paper first. I'm just doing a really wet brush loaded with paint. I don't want it to be too similar to the sky. There we go. And again, the closer to the bottom you go, the darker you want to make it. Just add pops of color. Don't be worried about looking too crazy or anything like that. Now's the time to experiment, sort of leave those concerns at the door. nice and bright yellow. Look at that against the sky, and it's sort of blending there at the horizon, but that's good. We want that. Add some interest. Here I go with my darker color. Add some grass just in the foreground of the painting, or rather at the bottom. There we go. It's very loose. It's all very wet right now, so it's going to blend up. Just add some texture there. Just put some more dark blue in there. I use the back of my brush or the other side of my brush to create more finer lines. I'm just sort of scratching at that paper, getting those blades of grass. I like to use a block watercolor paper, which means all the edges are glued down. Because if you add so much water to a loose piece of paper, it's going to buckle. It's going to start curling at the sides. So if you don't have a block, that's okay. What you want to do is you want to tape it down to a board or a table. Oh, not a table, because then you can angle it. It's some sort of board. So lots of nice fine lines. Smaller brush now, smaller round brush. Just adding more darks in there. Now I'm going to go back to my woods. It's sort of dry. And now the shadowing. Just getting a nice light brown and blue. Slowly bringing it down into the grass. Just soften it up. You don't want anything hard there because it just makes it look a little confusing. Okay, I'm just doing some more grass. And we're almost done here. If you'd like to see this painting or my other paintings, I have them all listed in my Etsy store. The details will be below in the description. And if you're wondering why I do voiceovers and don't talk to you while I'm painting, I have a little toddler who really likes to paint too. So you can definitely hear in the background if I don't mute this audio. Here we go. We're just going to step back, make sure we're done, and I'm happy with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you subscribe and tune in again. Thanks.